As we have already seen in the previous lesson, and as an alternative to CA, EA emerged in the 1960s thanks to the work of Corder and his followers. However, some linguists still believe in the predictive power of CA in teaching a foreign language, which means that they still believe that CA has a vital role in teaching a foreign language. That will lead us directly to Fisiak in 1981. According to him, error analysis as part of applied linguistics cannot replace contrastive analysis, but only supplement it, which means it can only complement it. Now, of course, when we speak about error analysis, we are basically speaking about errors that are being analyzed in terms of kind and quantity. Another important point is that error analysis treated many L2 errors as similar to those found in L1 acquisition. And here we can see the influence of Chomsky's language acquisition device theory on EA. Now let's take a look at the differences between errors and mistakes. And so errors are systematic in performance. They reflect incomplete mastery of aspects of the language. Errors reflect gaps in students' knowledge. And according to Corder, errors are caused by ignorance of the appropriate rule or structure in the foreign language. Mistakes, on the other hand, are random and the one-time only event, usually recognized. And according to Corder, a mistake is a problem not of knowing but of application. And so mistakes are of no significance to the process of language learning. This is exactly why in error analysis we don't care about mistakes, we only care about errors. And according to Chomsky's competence performance theory, errors can be considered as gaps in the student's competence, whereas mistakes have to do with performance. Now, coming to the types of errors, according to Corder in 1973, I've deliberately added these three types here because they are basically the same. They can be used interchangeably. So rule formation is actually a type of developmental errors, which are the strategies by which the learner acquires the language. And overgeneralization, as its name suggests, has to do with rule generalization. And so here we can see that our brains deal with those exceptions found in the language as flaws in the system. Now, coming to the types of errors, in error analysis, we have two types. We have intralingual errors and interlingual errors. The intralingual errors are errors that result from L2 itself without the influence of L1. The interlingual errors, there is an L1 influence. Now, according to James, he created a set of types in the intralingual errors, namely false analogy, incomplete rule application, over-elaboration, overgeneralization, misanalysis, exploiting redundancy, hypercorrection, and simplification. Now, overgeneralization, we've already spoken about that. For simplification, let's say a learner wants to say 2 years, and instead of saying 2 years, he says 2 year, and he thinks that 2 is enough to show the plural form. And so here, the learner is doing what? He is simplifying the language. Now, coming to the interlingual errors, we said that there is an L1 influence. So basically there is what? There is a transfer, whether it is a positive or a negative transfer. But in error analysis, we care more about the negative transfer. It can be also between dialects and the language. Let's give an example. This is a French learner of English. He said, I have 21 years old. So this is an interlingual error at the syntactic level, right? At the level of structure related to syntax, okay? And so in French, normally he says j'ai 21 ans, and he uses le verbe avoir. And so this is why he said I have instead of I am 21 years old. Now, of course, Corder in 1974 said that errors are identified in terms of 4 kinds: addition, omission, misinformation, and misordering. And Corder also proposed 5 steps in EA research to do what? To improve the teaching of L2 acquisition. So the collection of a sample of learner language, identification of errors, description of errors, explanation of errors, and evaluation of errors. And so with this methodology, EA showed that CA was unable to predict a great majority of errors. And so the goal of EA in analyzing various types of errors on the basis of data collection in real lessons was the conception and design of pedagogical materials and strategies that would do what? That would allow better teaching, learning. And so here we can say that it's basically the same objective of CA. However, EA had shortcomings. So the first thing is the incapacity of EA in dealing with a number of errors for misdiagnosing students' learning problems due to their avoidance of certain difficult L2 elements. The second thing is that EA didn't deal with what made learners succeed and what led them to learning. And so there was a lack of theorizing about language learners' success. The result today is that both contrastive analysis and error analysis are rarely used in identifying L2 learner problem areas. And that's according to Rossipa in 2011. By the mid-1970s, Corder and other researchers attempted to solve the issue by moving to a more wide-ranging approach, namely interlanguage. So we will get to know what we mean exactly by interlanguage in the next lesson. Until then, take care.